Excuse me, if you have some talking, or you're not ready, you ready to start class?
I know it's not.
Professor. What's the financial aid?
I'm sorry, we don't let people in late.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm going to try to. I'm going to be jumping from two parts, either facilitator part, and I'll announce that, or the teacher part. Okay. Every now and then I'll give comments on how I would do the case. I'm going to talk more. I'm going to try to stay away from talking facilitation. All right. Okay. But just so right now I'll talk facilitation. So it takes me generally a day to put a choreograph together. It's all choreographed, what I want to achieve. I'm going to be grading, and I'll actually have in front of me where everybody is sitting in class, and I'll be keeping little notes about who is participating. Bill, nice to see you.
Thank you, sir.
It's too bad you came in a little late,
but I'm
still glad to see you. Well, it started 3 minutes ago. Thank you. The last student just distracted me. I tried to design it, but I'll be looking at students if they have. It'll become immediately apparent if some of the students haven't read the case. It'll become apparent to me if some of you haven't read the case. To me, and I'll stop my facilitation role in a minute. One of the key lessons that I learned at Harvard is the students have to own the case. That to a certain extent I listen to them. The first time you do a case, you learn, even though I planned out the choreograph, it may not go, well, this group, I don't have a clue how it's going to go. But with the students, I'm not sure how it's going to go. Often I don't really know until about the third time I've done. Because I kind of let the discussions go, and you'll see me do things like walk into the class and things like that. But I always start off in the beginning with some initial, I call it cold calls. So Bill, tell me about HubSpot.
Well, I can tell you all about the case. I actually did a detailed calculation of CPV, Peter.
No, I want to know what HubSpot, Bill, tell me what HubSpot does.
What?
What does HubSpot do?
HubSpot is a Web 2.0 company that built a tool that marketers can use either direct to marketing or through marketing professionals.
Okay, thank you. Wayne, tell me about how it makes money.
Well, I can tell you about the software because that's the sentence that I'm reading now.
Yeah, but I want to know how it makes money. How does HubSpot make money?
HubSpot uses a pull marketing technique, so they want it. So what they're featuring is also how they're trying to make money, right? So their business model is actually the same thing that they're trying to sell to potential users. So they want to sell that. They want to sell them based on an initial subscription and then a monthly.
So they make money on what? Monthly.
First, the initial sign up and training.
Okay.
And then monthly subscription.
Okay. So by the way, I'm already knowing if people read it. Okay. By the way, you see the question. These are initial cold calling, and students looking down. Okay, and anyone who doesn't read it gets a C. All right, and I'll send an email to the student. You got a C. All right. There's no recovery if you haven't read it. You're not prepared for the class, and you'll pick them up right away. All right.
Sorry, just to interject. So how do you? You're assuming that you'll ask something of everyone.
No, I'll know. You look around the class, okay? I'm not going to that person.
Right.
Okay? And they'll get, after the first class, they'll read all the rest of the case. I won't catch everyone. I'll catch two or three.
So I'm saying you'll ask a question, but some guys will slip through and gotcha.
That's right.
But chances are, if you look down, you're going to get called on.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
If you're looking away, I mean, but the interesting thing is the next two cases, everyone will read.
Right.
So I'm sorry, just logistically, if you note that somebody has not read it,
yes.
How do you, on that cheating sheet?
Okay, I have a sheet. I'll make an X. I have everybody's name.
You will prepare the sheet in advance?
No, I have a picture of everybody in class.
Oh, that's what Swee's doing for the new faculty.
Yes, I'll have actually a clipboard. So I have a clipboard of everyone in class, and I'll put, as I call on you, I'll put a little X, and then I'll actually make a check
got
mark.
the clipboard.
Then the other thing I do right after class is I grade. Right after class. Okay? I will have memory for about an hour. No, I mean actually, I don't know, my memory is pretty good on the case about an hour. For about an hour. I go back to my desk and I write down who did what, okay? And I actually, and then I'll send out emails to the students later, the day after the day. But if I religiously do it right after class, like if I taught from 10 to 12, I'd spend half an hour on that class.
Do you have a rubric you use for those grades, and will you send that to us?
No, I don't have a rubric, okay? But I generally, it's either, I call A++, A+, A, B, and C. And I could so the rubric is A, kind of got it. A++, they blew me away.
Yeah, but there's no subcategories.
No. No. And there's C, if you haven't read the case, you get a C.
That's in general.
Okay?
And if you don't show up, you get an F? Or
No, if you don't show up, you have to write.
Oh, you have to write the 2.
You have to write a page on each question. If you don't show up.
It's
Great.
So that's a penalty in itself.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? All right.
Exactly. You did it.
Okay. So I'll ask another, but okay. So I have a few more questions. I would also ask what is inbound marketing, etc. And basically, I'm just kind of, it's an initial cold call, get everybody up to speed. Then I'm going to show, to get some energy around it, I'm going to show a YouTube video on the case. Let me make sure I'm plugged in. Here we go. So let me show you a little bit about HubSpot.
Marketing used to be easier. You'd spend a boatload of cash on advertising, cold calls, trade shows, and direct mail, and watch the leads pour in. But now folks are bombarded with a gajillion and one marketing messages every day. The worldwide interweb is transforming how they shop and buy. And there's all sorts of ways to block out the messages you're trying to get through. So yeah, the whole outbound marketing thing isn't doing the job anymore. Today, it's all about getting customers' attention through inbound marketing, which means blogging, tweeting, social media-izing, SEO optimizing, and a bunch of other newfangled strategies. There's all these new methods and tactics, and they're all disconnected from each other. So you've got this site for one thing, that site for another, you need this platform for that thing, and that program for that other thing. And now there's 50 different things to do in 50 different places. And it seems like figuring all this stuff out takes a rocket surgeon or a brain scientist, plus an extra 80 hours in the week to do it all. So what do? Since you're not a rocket surgeon? The marketing scientists over at HubSpot understand how daunting this brave new marketing world can be. So they did something about it. What they created will make your marketing way more powerful and, well, easier. HubSpot took every part of the best inbound marketing methods and consolidated them into one spot, giving you a centralized, easy-to-use, unbelievably powerful marketing hub. Get it? HubSpot? So you can blog, tweet, optimize, capture leads, basically everything all in one place. HubSpot's got all sorts of tools and tricks to make you a marketing genius, like instantly. You can optimize keyword content on blog posts, track visitors and user engagement, analyze social media feeds, do email marketing and lead nurturing, and view reports that actually measure the effectiveness of your marketing. No more blogging here, SEO optimizing there, or wondering how to do it all. With HubSpot, all your marketing is in one spot, with tons of training and advice at your fingertips. Yeah, HubSpot is that marketing secret weapon you've been waiting for. So make your marketing easier and more effective with HubSpot's all-in-one marketing system. Sign up for a free trial today.
Okay, so I told them more about HubSpot. What I did is I loaded up I needed to load up this HubSpot interning technology, which I didn't do. If you load it up into regular PowerPoint, it won't work. At least the clicker won't work.
This isn't HubSpot. That was a misspeak.
Well, that was a video embedded in a PowerPoint presentation. Okay. So I like to do questions and answers. Questioning. This helps create a conflict. So my first question for you is, who is the target for HubSpot? Is it Mary Market, owner Ollie, or both? No, use your clickers.
Oh, darn it.
Oh, I lost mine.
Where's your click? You'll probably be marked absent for this class.
Probably. I might as well just go then.
Do you want mine?
So you can go.
Oh, that's an honor violation. Okay. All right. So, owner Ollie. So, who said Mary Market?
No.
Nobody.
They said nobody.
Oh, so no. Why did? Why? Somebody said so. Why not Mary Market?
Well,
Not
Why?
exclusively.
Exclusively.
the question.
Let me ask. Why didn't anyone choose Mary Market? Why did anyone want to volunteer?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sandra?
I put it on hold because I think they have two different.
Oh, so you voted both. Okay.
I think both her and Ollie were.
So they should target both.
Yes.
That's a
only
different
one
question.
vote.
That's a different question.
Well, who should they target?
That
No,
doesn't
no.
say
No.
should.
Excuse me. Sandra said they should target both. You saying what the question is different?
Yeah, this question asks, the case says they currently target both. The question for us was, which one should they target, or...
Who is the target? No. My question was, who is the target for HubSpot?
Current.
Who's the current target? Or I guess you're right. It's a better question.
Yeah.
Who should they target?
Correct.
Better
That
question.
you'll get different
Okay.
answers.
We get a different answer?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll tell you what. Let me change it. Good ad.
The case was very clear that
It was
you
both.
have the problem for them is that they,
Okay.
in their
Who
mind,
should-
should both, right?
Excuse me, Professor.
Yes?
Are the two other students who are speaking currently or just were trying to intentionally be belligerent to mirror what a student would do, or are you
that's
actually?
good dialogue right there. Let's get to the heart of this issue.
No, I think I picked up a. This is.
Will you re-enter it?
No.
There's nothing else.
It happens to be a big file. This usually doesn't take.
Who should they target? Totally.
Who should they target?
Different question. And Ethan, to answer your question, that was both someone trying to contribute to this discussion, but also what a student would totally call out.
Yeah, and I think that's good. And I would do this. I do this in class. In other words, if it looks like that I look at it, boy, that's good. I'll change it. Okay.
I love the way you handle it. I just thought the question was kind of.
Yeah. Okay, so let's vote again. Who should they target? This isn't a word. I'm sorry. Who should HubSpot? Who should HubSpot target? Oh, okay. This is interesting. Okay, so we got a different answer. So good, Travis. Good ad. Thanks for contributing. By the way, I would give Travis a check mark. I would note that when the grading came out. In other words, good.
Is that an
good
A plus?
What?
A plus behavior?
Probably A plus. So, all right. So who said owner Ollie? Why did you say owner Ollie? Why?
Because I feel like they should be targeting the people who make the decisions.
They should be targeting. You mean people in Mary Market don't make decisions?
I don't know. I was a little confused, to be honest. But
Okay. Sandra, owner
that's what I went
Ollie.
with.
I said owner Ollie because there's way more small businesses than there were large businesses. They'd have more
So
customers.
it's more.
They'd have more individual like subscriptions if they went with the owner Ollies rather than.
So they would have more individual. So they would have more sales.
Yeah.
Okay. So who said Mary Market? Travis, so tell me why Sandra's wrong.
Well, I
Why
mean,
they should target Mary Market.
the case highlighted all the problems and challenges with the owners and why they want to get away from that. It's short-term business. There's no long-term relationship and chances to upsell. It's dependent on the market and the economy, whereas in my mind, the marketer always has a marketing budget. In good times, they have more money to spend. In bad times, they need to spend more money to stand out. So there's always going to be a need and a recognition of the value that this particular product can provide for them, rather than just the quick get the crash course, and then get out and cancel the subscription.
Sandra?
I just think that for an owner Ollie, it made a bigger difference if they used inbound marketing. It made a dramatic difference, and I think that the problem wasn't with since they weren't focusing on them, they could probably develop strategies to keep them longer term, with follow up, and after a couple of months, I'm sure they could help that business actually grow, and that would be better for the economy than. So I'm thinking that the owner Ollies would just benefit more from a different, like if they were going to focus on them, they could change some of their techniques to.
But I heard Travis say that the Market Mary was just a better target for more sales. Did I get that right, Travis?
Yeah, I think
Bigger
there's
sales.
Bigger sales.
Bigger sales and a longer term relationship.
So you were saying that you thought owner Ollie. So could you maybe help Travis out?
I think that with the marketing, currently the marketer Mary's only made up 27% of their portfolio, whereas the owner Ollie's made up 73%. So
I'll get to your question in a minute.
Mary's much more money.
So Sandra's saying the owner Ollie's is a bigger market.
Is this rebuttal for me?
Yes.
I disagree.
Why?
When you look at the lifetime value of what that relationship is, and the size of the contract, and the opportunities down the road as inbound marketing changes, or marketing in general changes. There are other opportunities to continue that relationship and sell them new products, rather than always trying to convince the owner that they need you.
Okay, so let me, I realized, by the way, I skipped a part of my choreography, so I'm going to back up a minute and then I'll return. So I apologize to the class a minute. But before continuing, I'm sorry that I wanted to first highlight what are some of the principles of marketing. If you recall, this was covered in your marketing module. So could anyone tell me the 4 P's of marketing and then write them on the, we don't have a, we do have a board. Could anyone tell me the 4 P's of marketing? Travis, if you can go up and write them down. And they are, by the way?
Product, price, promotion, and place.
Place.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Actually, it's product, price, place, packaging, but there should also be.
We're doing a modified version. It's 4 P's,
Okay,
which are in the. What we have in the module is product, price, promotion, and place is the channel.
But that's traditional, and it
yes.
doesn't reflect social media in the 21st century. I really would
We're
love to see us have-
not. I understand. It's a very good comment, student Ethan. Okay, all right. However, we're not that expansive in this course. These are the principles we're going to be using today. Thank you.
I should have applied to Cooper U.
Additional principle, right? Plus targeting, all right? And I wanted this, by the way, any student who puts this up, I give a plus to. So these are the principles that I'm going to be reinforcing during the case. And hence, who should they target? So that's one of the principles I'm talking about. Who should they target? Right? So we heard a discussion between Sandra and Travis concerning owner Ollie versus Mary Market. Let's stay on this whole area of target and sales. Your name is Bill?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Bill. I saw your hand raised. Could you? Do you want to contribute to this, or
Yes, please, sir.
help Travis or help Sandra figure out the case?
Yes, would like to, sir. So I had the same question, sir, and when I read the case, I was very confused, and I kind of went back and forth, and it took me a really long time, and late at night, but then I kind of figured something out when I was doing some research that I could actually calculate the lifetime value for Mary Market customers, and then I could calculate the lifetime value for only Ollie customers. And then I looked back in the case, sir, at the appendix labeled Appendix 1, which showed the pipeline of the customers was very full, and then Appendix 10, which showed that they were actually increasing in both sales. So it looks like they have a lot of potential to go after both, so you could kind of go either way. So you have to pick who's going to return you the most money.
Okay, who?
And I calculated a 2.2 times ratio that...
Could you show us the calculation?
Sure I can, sir.
Okay, please.
May I use my notes, sir? To
Yeah,
make sure I
do
get
it
the math
on
right
the
and
board
have a
here.
marker.
I'm giving this guy an A++ already. I don't care what his calculations look like.
So, Bill,
Is
it's going to be
is this what the students are like that he's doing?
Yeah. Go ahead, right.
It's going to take me a minute to do
All right. So as this student shows, does anyone want again? Why is who voted both? Okay. Who voted both? Did you vote both?
Yes.
So how come you vote both?
Well, because I think it's actually asking the wrong question. Why are they targeting right now? Why are they trying to reduce their available market opportunity at this point when there's clearly attributes to both segments? And what they really need to be doing is finding ways to exploit or capitalize on the Mary Markets and the owner Ollies. Mary Markets have, if I've got my notes right, Mary Markets have higher churn. You may get them, but they leave. The owner Ollies stay longer, and that has to be factored. So I think the issue, that's actually a very narrow question. The question should be, how should they grow and return more value to their shareholders?
Professor.
Not how do they target,
Okay. So let's. The question is it difficult? Is it difficult to target both? This student Yolanda, is that right?
Yolanda.
Yolanda.
Yolanda. Rhymes with rotunda.
Okay. Yolanda. Is it an issue of targeting both? Meg?
Actually, since we're using the lean in your hand, the fundamental issue here is that the business model is flawed as defined, because it's two separate business models within the targets. If you were to look, which is why they should do both, but not in the way that they did it. They used one business model. Let me finish. They used one business model to define two targets and then went after them, and then the question was evaluating the two. When in fact the small business model for this software platform would have been one way to market, retain, and get a better ROI, and the same thing for the Mary Markets.
So you're saying how they're doing it is incorrect.
The
Okay.
premise.
Good point. Let's stay with who they should target. We could go to business models. Good point, but let's stay on the target.
It related to that.
It certainly is related, but let me stay on the target. Could you talk to the issue of George? If you could talk to the
I'd just like to rebut my fellow student.
Okay, great.
Because I believe that both is the incorrect strategy, and she just pointed out that as
now, by the way, so you voted on what? Both or
I voted on Mary Market.
Okay, and it's an incorrect strategy to do two.
To do both.
Okay.
But one of the logic that the other student, whose name I can't recall, Yolanda, excuse me, said was that Mary marketers were shorter life cycle, and that's exactly 180 degrees wrong. The case itself specifically says, although marketer Marys were a harder sell up front, they stayed longer than owner Ollies.
When they upsold and increased and they switched them to use the CMS, they were, which was the whole point. If they had a strategy where they turned them into longer staying customers, and they did, but that's the key. They need to look at how to keep those you're right. Actually, you're right. I did misspeak. I'm sorry. I did misspeak. I did flip them in my notes.
Okay.
You're right, but the point I'm trying to make is that by taking the Mary marketers and turning them into a higher value customer and raising the price point. So I mean, I'm sort of getting ahead, but you're right.
Okay.
I did misspeak on that particular, and I apologize for that. You are right.
So let me turn to our star pupil here. Bill, could you show us the calculations you did?
Sure, Professor. So first I calculated the customer lifetime value for owner Ollie, and the formula for customer lifetime value
that I was able to get from the internet is the monthly profit that you get times the lifetime of the customer minus the acquisition cost of that customer. And if you look in the appendix, you'll find out that for owner Ali, the monthly profit is $250 a month. The expected lifetime for an owner Ali is 23 months, and the cost to acquire an owner Ali is $100. So you do that and you get $47.50. I then did the same calculation for Mary Marketer, and in that case, using the same formula, you get $500 a month times 31 months, which is longer than the 23 months. It does require a higher acquisition cost, so it's $500, and then you get $10,500. So then I ratioed to figure out what the potential of one was the other, and you put the ratio of this to this, and you get a 2.2 times ratio.
So this student argues...
There's an error in the math. It's a $5,000 Mary Marketer acquisition cost.
And 1,000 for the other one.
Yeah. 1,000 for the other one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let besides the issue of that. By the way, the student, despite the mathematical error, let's congratulate the student. Well done. But let me. Is this a valid way to evaluate which is better? Yeah,
It's only half the work, though.
only half the work. Wayne. Okay.
I think it's a valid way because it does compare the profitability of one consumer segment versus another. But I think there's another issue that we haven't discussed yet, and that is the level of diversity of the customer base that StubHub has right now. Because they're saying an issue is that they have such a diverse base that they lack the ability to really focus in on the actual customer's needs, which is why I think it's very distracting when these hands go up. I think Mary Martin is probably one, a better customer to aim at. They have more actual knowledge. They'll tend to stay longer, and they also have the resources to sort of make the buyers.
So what I want to do is I want to close down this part of the case and continue. What are the key decision factors that I would use to determine the target? What should I be looking at?
Are you still professor mode or now?
Yes, still professor.
Okay, because then I have.
What are the key?
But I have to interrupt you then, professor.
But I'm trying to close. I want to kind of close it down.
I understand,
yes, go ahead.
but you closed down my discussion on the model.
I did.
And I don't think that you
Facilitation.
can, related to the case that we read,
Okay,
and in
so-
trying,
so-
wait a minute,
good.
in trying to get to your answer about the target, I do think, because it was one of their biggest flaws, and what they had to correct.
All right, so let me move into facilitation role. All right, I wanted to stay on the issue of target.
Just for this practice.
No. I want for this. My choreograph is to stay on the issue of this particular choreograph is on target. I want to keep the discussion on target.
It is, I know.
No, but if you move me to business model, okay, it's a good point, but you'll take me away from the discussion on target. So
Right.
what I did.
I just want you to know, as a student, I'm objecting to that because they're related.
Well,
That's
I
what
understand.
That's what I'm saying.
But
to you.
the
They're
issue.
hinge on
Yeah, no,
each
no,
other.
I'm playing a facilitation role.
Okay. That's
No.
fine.
Whenever you do a case, some students will have good points, as you did, okay? But it takes. I made a conscious decision saying, gee whiz, that's a good point, but it's not what I want to stay on top. It's not the area that I want the discussion to be in. And I tried to do that and say, gee whiz, good point. It was a good point. Let's stay on the issue of target. Because I think if I go to business models, it brings me into the organization.
It doesn't.
Okay, okay.
It's just like the math, is all I'm pointing out. Just like you rewarded that.
I did, because it stays on target.
But so does this discussion,
Okay,
but the
all right.
word business model must be throwing you off. I'm saying, based on the case you had us read, the justification for one target over the other was this, that everybody's the same. That was the problem. Too diverse, everybody's the same.
We would have to continue
in the pot.
I think I would have.
No,
I think
a
the
smart
point.
student
The point
would point that out.
Yeah, but the points. I'm not sure where I would, and with a business model, it would lead me to talk about the complete business model, which would include the channels, the customers, the product, the problem they're solving. To me, as a facilitator, it would end up opening up too wide.
I have to
Okay,
just say,
that's fair
there's
enough.
an influence on the target and
Yes.
that's all.
As a student-
Price is not the
Yes.
only one.
As a student, I'm not sure I would completely understand what you were trying to get to, though. If you were
I'm
looking at the
trying to
target.
stay on the issue of
No,
justice.
that's the point.
For a facilitation, what influence of the target? So let me just to make a decision on the target. What are some key issues you want to know? Say again.
Lifetime of the customer.
Lifetime of the customer. Okay, good.
Profitability of customer, yeah.
Price point,
Customer.
price.
Price point. What was the other point?
Profitability.
Profitability.
Cost to acquire.
Profitability.
Is this a good place
Durability.
to talk about the competitors in the area? Or
Cost.
like-
Cost to acquire. Competitors. Good. I think that's a good list.
Well, but I would also put, client psychology in there too, because.
Client psychology.
Buyer behavior. Like,
Well, yeah, I mean, an owner has a different set of priorities
Yeah.
than a marketer.
How do they make
And I
Right.
guess I'll add the student Meg is the business. You could add the business model to support it.
Would that be similar to the quality of the customer?
I don't know. Would it?
I think so. I think the more educated the customer is for this type of, service and product, the better the customer
Okay.
will
So
get.
so what I'm just trying to get the students to talk about issues of targeting. Okay. All right. So let's move on to the next part of. It's in my hand. Let's choose. What I'd like to do is let's say that.
I think it skipped up a little bit.
Oh, yes, it did. Okay, so, I was, so, okay. Let's assume that we'll choose owner Ollie, right, as the target. Let me choose owner Ollie as the target, right? If we choose owner Ollie as the target, we need to let me just reset it. So, by the way, the problem that this is taking so long, which I need to correct, is it has a large video in it.
could you not have that embedded in your
Yes, and that's what I need to do.
I think strategy is spelled wrong.
Yep.
That's true to form. The spirited debate that we're having is not going to happen in your class, I would suspect.
That's not true.
At this deep a level where some kid's going to feel comfortable enough going and drawing lifetime
No,
values.
it won't, and I think initially you'll have to get, okay, so what's the correct pricing strategy for Owner Ollie? Open source, free? Software as a product or software as a service? So I'm getting into, we talked about targeting, I'm talking now about price, okay? What's the correct pricing strategy for Owner Ollie? And again, we're just going to focus on Owner Ollie.
Professor, could you explain what the difference is between number 2 and number 3?
Okay, could somebody in the class explain the
Yeah.
differences?
Typically, software as a product is you buy a one-time perpetual license, you pay $1,000. Software as a service is you pay $25 a month in perpetuity.
So, Professor?
Yes.
After reading the case, it seemed like they had both 1 and 3. So, can you have more than one of these? Or are you saying that we have to pick the one or the best one? I'm not understanding.
What do you think is the correct one?
So you're implying there's only one correct answer?
Do you think there could be 2?
I think there could be 2.
So
Sir.
I think
could
there's
be
definitely 2.
Well, I think one of them might just be a way of trying to get customers to be number a different one.
So with why are you your name is Bill? Bill.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
When
Bill.
you get
Bill.
customers,
Why,
right?
why are you?
Or trial period.
Yeah, to get
So
customers.
one should
right.
be a trial period. Okay. All right. So let's assume. I'll let you guys I won't let you guys vote again, 'cause I don't want to reset it. Let's assume that 1 is the initial period, and then it'll follow with 2 or 3. Okay? So let's make it for initial pricing strategy. Is that better? Okay.
I already voted.
All right. So what should be the initial pricing strategy? In fact, that's a better question. And this, by the way, comes up the first time you do, whenever you do this initially. So what is the initial pricing strategy?
Is this what they did or what they should?
What is the correct? What they should do?
Oh, the correct.
Correct. What is the initial pricing strategy?
Well, don't you want to make it a service so that you can have an upgrade opportunity and you
All right,
could get
that
them.
didn't come out right.
To reset the slide.
There we
Oh,
go.
there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so 2 people said free service, so good, we have a complete mix. All right, so who said free? Okay, let me go, Wayne. Right.
Yes.
Wayne, why free? You're going to give something away free.
You had mentioned trial, so I was
Okay.
under the assumption it'd be, a free trial period,
Okay.
say 30-day period. And then after that, I could choose whether I wanted the
Okay.
software as
All right.
product or service.
All right, so somebody said that initially, who said software is a product, we're going to sell it
I did.
initially. Okay, so Wayne's going to give it away for free and you want to charge it. So why?
Buying behavior of the owner, what they talked about was that all they want is like the kit on how to do this, and then they're going to cancel their subscription anyway. Right. And so you won't have a long time to have this customer, so you might as well upcharge them for the initial kit and get your one-time sale as an option for them, knowing that that's how they want to buy, rather than committing them to a longer service or giving the house away for free, in which case many of them are never going to convert to a longer paying customer.
Wayne, what do you think?
I'm just thinking about the owner.
Travis is arguing that your strategy is incorrect.
I'm just thinking of owner Ollie and the actual usage rate, because it does tend to drop off. More than 55% of their customers,
Right.
after
Right.
they buy the product, don't use it anymore.
Which is why I'm saying, and keep in mind, I'm not a proponent of software as a product ever. I'm just saying, if you're trying to get these guys...
Yeah, but you just argued as a product.
I argued for this particular user segment.
Okay.
I mean, I think there should be a hefty upfront with a trailing software, like a service element to it, I think is the ideal. But
you could
if you had to choose one, get skin the cat.
I think a risk is that a buyer could be disenfranchised by paying a high initial price and then dropping it, as opposed to
George,
having it as a service.
did you want to add to this discussion?
Travis, to break even from going from a SaaS model to a payment upfront model for the owner Ollies, you'd have to generate between $6,000 and $12,000 on the credit card when they called in. So it's a different sale to say to somebody, sign up for between $250 and $500 a month, and if you like it, you keep going. You're saying, give me your credit card right now for $6,000, $9,000, $12,000. That's a really high bar to go with an SMB owner.
So you're saying a really hard to get that amount of money
It's
from?
really hard to
Okay.
get from the small business owner.
Well, first of all, I want to reframe the conversation. Is that I think if they had to choose one, the market of marry is the way to go, because there's the relationship to build there. But the point.
But the board's told you to forget it. You're bad. That's a terrible idea. We're going for owner Ollies.
So, well,
Make it work.
If that's the only one you're going to go for, I mean, no, I totally agree. I mean, I'm not saying that is by far. I'm saying you should present that option for the people who want the toolkit, who you know are never coming back, because clearly there's that's what they do.
I had some, not what Travis had put initially, although he's swaying me a bit. But they also said that once people implement this strategy, they get really quick change. It goes from 0 to 72% leads, but then it's got a diminishing rate of return. So maybe for them they just want the quick fix, use inbound marketing, and then.
How would you? So I'm hearing really good input from George. George said to do software as a service. Travis said sell it, and this gentleman Wayne said to give it away free. So we have we have three separate pricing strategies.
But here's the
How do
thing.
we figure out the correct pricing strategy?
I mean, I think
Is there a right one?
There has to be two options, right? There's the option you want, and then there's the option that you think they're going to take.
How do we figure out the correct one?
Talking to the customers.
Is that enough?
I think you have to know what
Yeah.
your short and long
And your
term business
competition.
goals are.
Yeah, the competition
I
piece
mean,
is
the
like you're not
model
operating in a
plays, but you
vacuum.
want to hear that, the competition
Analyze
plays.
the data.
There's already a market. They didn't come anywhere near inventing the
Okay.
market.
Okay,
And
but
this
how
is-
do we find? So Travis, what did you say?
Well, I was going to say we actually have a lot of data to analyze here, and you can do some
What kind of data? What do we want to do?
looking at the life cycle of the owner Ollie customer and how long and how they use your product.
With what pricing strategy?
What that was what
I'm
I
not sure I understand.
How are we going to get? So we have three cases where three different groups argued on three different pricing strategies. How do we figure out the right one?
To test, I think having a free open source trial period will get you the test results that you need.
So we
Because
do that.
You give it away,
We have
and then
it in
you
there.
track how many people
Okay.
eventually sign up as a product
So
or
we're actually
service.
the word I'm looking for is somebody to say let's experiment with the customers. At least that's where I was driving the conversation. I was hoping to get
is
that
it
out.
test the
Except that
same?
there's data in the case
Okay.
already.
So there's data
That-
that says.
That
Okay.
talks about the drop-off. The drop-off is the key thing here for the pricing. The drop-off is already proven. So if you can't do a 30-day free trial because they're dropping off at a rate that is, much just past that. So you'd have to do a very quick trial. If you sold it as a product, it would have to be a reasonable price, and the upsell would be the service in the long run.
I kind of have to recall. Were they doing free?
No.
What were they
They
doing?
They were not.
They were. They gave away.
Demo tools.
Yeah, they gave away
Demo,
pieces
they
of
They
it.
gave away
limited
demo tools, but that wasn't-
limited demo tool, three limited demo tools that were given away free only that were used for
Okay,
single
all right.
customers.
The lesson where I was hoping to drive, just so again I'm playing facility, I wanted to get, if you don't know, if you have three particular I'm playing facility. Typically, in a lot of products, you don't know what price you should charge, and here are three different cases, but you could go ahead and experiment with the customer. So that's a lesson learned. All right. Let me continue. So
There's
we
a
did.
housekeeping on the slide. Should that say what is the current pricing strategy instead of who?
No, what is I want the correct. What do you think the correct
No,
price is?
oh,
Okay.
No, it's incorrect.
It's what
Who
as
is the
opposed to who,
correct
as opposed
pricing?
to who.
What? It's not who. It's what.
Right.
It's what. I need to change that.
Or we
Okay.
can just really mess with
All
their heads.
Yeah, basically, yeah. Okay. How should HubSpot see? I talked about the target. We spent some time talking about the product. We contrasted owner Ollie with owner Ollie with Market Mary. We talked about the price. I want to talk about promotion. How should HubSpot be promoted to owner Ollie? Everybody vote.
And for new people, if you vote once and you change your vote before the polling is closed, it changes the vote. So it's not the first button you hit.
Until
Okay. Right. So we have a mix. So who said both? Meg.
Yeah. They held to the incorrect assumption that inbound was the only way to do it because that was their business model.
Okay.
There isn't a customer that works only on inbound. It's
Okay.
not a correct assumption.
Okay.
What was missing in the marketplace was inbound.
So they need to do both, and hence follow the lead of most successful companies. Okay. I'm just repeating. Is that what you're saying? Okay. So who said just inbound? George, how come Meg just doesn't have this right?
Well,
Meg is very smart and has some great insight and everything, but I disagree with her on this. I think you need to prove your own business model works. You're going to sell other people on that as a way of growing your business, and so their dedication to that single channel in what is strongly inferred in this article, a limited resources company, is resource constrained. So this channel has been working for them well, and I just don't think they should take limited resources and push them out into the more expensive outbound marketing.
But it said that they had been proved wrong.
Where did it say that?
In the case, they talked about that by sticking to that, it was too limited, and they eventually went to outbound, as well as inbound.
But rather than what's in the case, what should they do? I mean,
Both.
but I think George, you're arguing that this is their business model, so they have to eat their own dog food. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, I am.
Now, has Meg, who's happens to be one of our quality students, does she? No, I wouldn't say that. I'm sorry. Has she made a convincing case that you would change your mind?
No, and I'm looking back for.
So who would like to support student George's viewpoint that it should just be Roger? Why should it just be inbound marketing and not both?
I think in the reality of the world here, there is limited resource, and to do both is probably not within their financial resources. And I like the strategy they had, that they're going to eat their own dog food, and that they're going to market the way they're advertising their customers to market. I think it becomes more powerful, and I think people that are shopping for this kind of product are shopping for inbound marketing. So I think it makes a very strong message.
Meg, how would you respond to
Well,
that?
I think we know that the leading marketers do a mix. I think what was missing in the marketplace was the stressing on the inbound, which is why they had such a great opportunity. I think by ignoring, in sticking so true to that model, ignoring being able to cold call, for example, being able to go out for their own customers, they missed the marketplace. They had raised enough money to do a mix of both, which is where they ended up, and I think we've seen by case...
Well, I don't know if I believe that yet. I don't know if they did mix. Did they, in fact, do both outbound and inbound?
Eventually, yes.
Eventually,
Yes.
after this case was published.
And they... but also we have proven in the marketplace, and we can't ignore that the leading marketers in the world do a mix of both, and I think the great advantage to HubSpot was that there was too little on inbound, and that's where their great opportunity was. But for their own marketing.
Yolanda? And then I'm going to close down this portion of the case. Yes.
I mean, I think there's a sort of a middle ground here, which is where you could do outbound. There's just such an opportunity with the customers that cared enough to try them, and maybe even to do for a while and then left. And so there's that pool of customers who, call them, lapsed customers or customers who exited, that they could do outbound, if you will, to that customer. I'm sorry, to that group of customers, and try either retrieve them, and/or they could go to those customers that may be wavering. They could tell because they have activity meters, Bill. They have ways that they can tell how often you engage, and actually get to them and say, "How's it going? I see you haven't used us lately." So that's outbound, but it's very targeted, and that way they don't feel that they violate they're eating their dog food. They're just maybe putting some gravy on it. I don't know, that didn't work.
Just a quick ad from student Travis.
I actually think it's very much more black and white. Beyond needing to do the one thing, beyond needing to do the one thing particularly well, inbound marketing. You have to understand that inbound marketing is work, and outbound marketing is money. And therefore, that is why I think they lose the owner customers, that you have to constantly supply the content versus hiring somebody to mail the mailers. And that is the difference in the approach that I think is why they're losing the owners. It's not that they're not doing a nice mix. It's that it's a fundamental psychological change for the customer to do this. And that's why the marketers are better at doing this, because that is their job.
Mm-hmm.
So,
okay. All right. So I think, let me say, so I think we brought up, I'm sorry. I
I do need to move on in terms of time. So I think, yes.
As a facilitator, you use some pretty specific language when you're ready to move on.
Yes.
You say, I'm going to, or I'd like to close down this section.
Yes.
Is that kind of a specific
I
vernacular?
won't say that that's, I need to be able to move on.
Without saying, I want to move on?
Or I could say I
I've used
move on.
that phrase.
Okay,
You're
you
okay
can
with
use
that
move on
phrase?
too. Okay? I want to specifically, in other words, some of these cases could go on for hours and hours. I want to be able to get through it and in terms of timing.
I guess that's my question. Is that a real problem, that there would be somebody that knows as much about marketing as Meg, that really knows her stuff, or Bill that knows his numbers, that you would actually have a problem of, oh my God, they just won't stop talking?
Yes.
Is that a problem? I mean, if
no,
Meg and
because
Bill wanted to
I'll do just what I did. I'll apologize. I need to move on.
I'm just trying to understand though.
Yeah.
How real is it to have a Bill and a Meg who knows
in a
so
graduate
much?
in a graduate class.
No, but
yes.
I don't care about that. I'm talking
Okay.
about Management 103.
No.
Okay.
No, but that won't prevent people from getting into it and having pretty firm opinions.
So
Well,
what you will encounter are firm opinions.
I've never done this in a freshman class.
Oh.
I don't know. I suspect they're going to be much more. You're not going to see this kind of interaction.
Well, my concern is you drafted the 4 Ps. I asked about the question I asked because like software as a service, software as a product. I mean, do they actually?
They read
Are they
it.
going to? They read it while they were.
Well, we'll see. Yeah, but okay. So the issue.
My prediction to your answer, I think we can get more interaction than Peter expects, but I don't think you're going to get the.
No way. You're not going to get this kind of level of interaction.
Peter, you let me finish saying.
I'm sorry.
I don't think you can get this level of interaction in detail. I think you get more interaction from the actual, quoting and stuff. I don't think you can get this level of interaction, no.
So the chances are that these students have never read an HBS case before.
They're 18
Correct.
years old.
Correct.
They've probably never done a
Why
case
the hell
study
would they have
before.
ever done that?
So they don't even know
Because they
how
have
this
it in
is
school
supposed
at
to
MKA. They
What?
read them all the
Okay,
time.
but that's
Where?
What? Say again?
They do. My freshmen are fairly, you'll get a few of them that are pretty sophisticated in what
Okay.
they know.
All right. So
We'll
this
see.
is-
And, I'm not saying it's going to be. I also would like to make a comment, Professor.
Yes.
I made a couple of good points. You cut me off almost each time. The other thing I want to point out is it's clear that there were a couple people in here that read very, very detailed into that case, and some who skimmed it and participated in the discussion
Right.
pretty vigorously, but didn't have all the detail. So I just want to make that point.
Okay.
What's the point?
Just what I said.
The issue. Thank you for your comment. The issue, and well, I tried it in any event. So let me the issue on where we are right now is I've covered the issue of So let me get back. So the issue for HubSpot, what I'm trying to do is just converge this. So right now, HubSpot is just doing inbound marketing, and we heard that maybe they should do both. And of course, the issue is promotion is always a difficult decision for companies, and HubSpot needs to figure this out as well. Let's move on to the last one, place. That's channel. Is how is the customer how does HubSpot reach the customer currently? Meg? Content.
Inbound marketing. They're
Inbound
using
marketing.
blogging.
But what's the channel?
Many. Blogging, social media channels.
Okay.
So they are putting out
So they're
promotionals.
internet
Web
channels.
2.0.
Web 2.0.
Yes.
Okay, so that's the channel. Would you like to hear from the CEO of HubSpot talk about?
Yes.
Talk about yes. Okay.
Yes.
Let's invite the.
We think of ourselves as being in this great big kind of cockpit, And part of what we're using, kind of the proceeds from the company in terms of cash investment, is installing all these knobs and dials. Because what we want to do is be able to experiment. Because the reality, one thing we've learned is that there are no easy answers to any of this stuff. And the only real way to get to the truth is to try it. And our kind of way to operate is to see if we can run very cheap experiments to say, okay, well, we think if we extended it to 6 months or 9 months, or if we change the price this way, here's what we think might happen. Then we measure the results afterwards and come back and kind of iterate on the business. In terms of churn rate, which is obviously very interesting, we've learned a lot of things. One is B2B customers are generally better than B2C customers. Bigger companies better than smaller companies. A lot of those things are generally obvious. The other thing that was less obvious was around product usage, in terms of what parts of the product did people use that caused them, maybe not caused, but had a higher correlation with retention. What kinds of things did people do to get them to kind of stay? Let's move up a level now, because one of the things that we constantly debate is around this inbound marketing versus outbound marketing. Is there a big transformation? Is it really realistic to say, oh, well, inbound marketing is the way, everybody give up all your kind of old outbound marketing campaigns, forget everything you ever learned, and the fact that you have to feed the salespeople and you need leads next month and all those things. My gosh, isn't this new inbound marketing stuff great? Practically, we understand that, and lots of people made this point, which is it's another channel, it's another vehicle, it's another method by which to draw leads. Now, looking at it from HubSpot's perspective, we're a startup, and it's very difficult to get attention through gentle change. Seth Godin likes to say we don't call it the industrial period of gentle change, it's the industrial revolution, right? So we have to have massive change happen in order to kind of get the attention. So we have been very good at, and I think this is generally good in terms of content creation overall, but you have to be able to polarize a community to get attention. So when we're out there, we don't say, like, even though we act, but we don't say outwardly and say, okay, well, this is, you kind of ease your way into this right now, this is the way of the future, you can afford to kind of, we're like, no, your world is going to be over as you know it if you do not get onto this inbound marketing bandwagon. It works for us, we're a startup. Part of our thing is we have to kind of shake up the system a little bit. But now, having said that, so that's kind of practical stance on it. The real question is it even a moderately true thing as far as inbound marketing? Does it actually work? And for this, I'll do a quick anecdotal thing. So this week, how many of you, through some outbound thing, either you got a telemarketing call, you got some email, you got something in the mail, and you actually bought something that costs more than, let's say, $100? Any one of you? Like, where an outbound marketing campaign worked. So you literally bought something as a result of someone reaching out to you. Okay. Yeah. Okay. How many people use Google this week to look for something, a product or service or whatever? So I asked this question in all sorts of audiences, as do other members of the management team, and the answer is anecdotally we feel like inbound marketing makes sense. We call it the path of truth and justice, right? So if, as a society, we become immune to these kind of outbound marketing messages, right? What that really means to us as marketers is, yes, outbound is likely to continue to work somewhat, but I think it's very hard to argue that the kind of efficiency, the cost of customer acquisition and the cost per lead is not going to go down over time when you're using methods that people are just getting good at blocking out. That's, I'm not a marketing guy, but that seems to make reasonably good sense to me as a carbon-based life form, that that's what's actually going to end up happening. So the thesis is that we're not sure exactly how long it'll take, but it makes sense that inbound stuff is going to be cheaper to acquire customers when you can do it that way versus outbound. That's not particularly controversial. So other questions you guys had on the Mary versus Ollie. This is a hotly debated topic. The interesting thing at HubSpot is when we have this particular debate, and we have it all the time, at least a couple of times a month, we found the quality of the discussion is a function of like alcohol intake up to a maxima, and then it trails off very quickly. But things that we've learned right now, and most of the people at HubSpot, if you catch them on a good day, can argue either side relatively well. So you can pick a random person on the team and say, I want you to argue the Mary side, or I want you to argue the Ollie side. Since you guys, most of you, majority took the Mary side, I'll argue for Ollie, just for fun. So here's the issue with Mary. Mary, and by definition for us, Mary means she's got the word marketing in her title somewhere. It's the kind of binary test. That's what makes you a Mary to us. So you've got the word marketing on your business card somewhere. And what Mary does is very interesting. She actually, for the large part, doesn't do what I'll call quote-unquote real work. What she does is she finds agencies, she outsources, she aggregates, she kind of pulls stuff together, but she's not in there doing actual quote-unquote real work in terms of our software. She'll get in there, she'll look at some reports, she'll do some things, but she has this propensity, because maybe that's how Mary's evolved over time, of finding agencies and actually doing work and kind of getting freelancers to create content and do copywriting and do graphics design, all those kinds of things. So that's interesting. The other thing that's interesting is that Mary actually has opinions around inbound marketing, around whether this will or will not work. We get lots of pushback from Mary. They're like, Dharmesh, yeah, this is all good, but this and this and this and the other thing. And for a startup that's trying to change the world, at least a small piece of the world, that's problematic in a couple of ways. One is the sales cycle is much longer. She takes a lot more convincing. It's represented in the numbers. And there's two things. The numbers are a little bit misleading, because even now the cost of acquisition is obviously very different. So let's put the actual revenues aside for a second. It's not just troubling because she's hard to sell. It's troubling because it's harder to find patterns with her, right? And so how many of you are from the enterprise business, selling to big companies? Okay, so a lot of you. One of the issues in the enterprise business, anytime you sell to big people with opinions, it's very hard from a product strategy perspective, because what happens is the bigger the check they're writing, the larger percent of your revenue they represent, the more influence they have over your strategy and your product, right? So Mary comes back and says, we need a way to do this. We've got 14 people in the field and marketers doing this. We want to slice it this way, and we do these 19 reports. And that's great. We could probably on margin make money, but then we start to look much more like a services company, right? It's like we're doing consulting projects and trying to do implementation, and it kind of steers the product in ways that we're not comfortable with. And the problem is, it's not often the right way, because as a software startup, to get those kind of high gross margins, we have to build it once and sell it a bazillion times. It's very hard to sell it a bazillion times when there's labor involved, where you have to change the product for every Mary that you sell. Now, it's not every Mary, but it's pockets of Mary. So that's the other issue, is that it just drives that kind of strategy of the company very differently. The other part is, we haven't talked at all about competition. Mary has choices. Mary knows what marketing is. Mary has done due diligence before. She's hired software vendors. She's hired agencies. She's talking. She's going to industry conferences. She knows marketing. That's her job. As a result of which, she knows exactly what the landscape looks like. And so rarely do we sell to a Mary and she's like, oh yeah, HubSpot, boy, isn't that great, and just signs up, right? She knows her stuff. So competition, in terms of downward price pressure over time, we think is going to be much stronger with Mary. So even though we're the hot new thing right now, even though we can make relatively compelling arguments as to why this should be part of her mix, it's going to be harder over time as competition comes in. So that's number one. Number two is it's really, really hard to own the entirety of Mary. Mary has the budget, or will accumulate a budget over time that allows her to do best of breed. So we'll come, and this happens now. So Mary will come back and she'll say, we love your search engine marketing tools. Those are just great. But we have this content management system over here. We do this for lead management over there. And we really don't want HubSpot for those things because they're working pretty well. We just want it for this little piece. And it really breaks down the value proposition of HubSpot. What HubSpot's really about is this kind of integrated marketing platform. We want to own all of marketing, because the goal of the company is to build a multi-billion-dollar business for marketing software. We think the wedge is to go in through small business for all the reasons we just talked about, which is Mary's hard to sell to, acquisition costs are higher, competition is there, it's going to create downward pressure, and product strategy is really hard to maintain when you're selling to Mary. Ollie, on the other hand, very easy to sell to. We get thousands of them in there. They rarely have an opinion. They're just so happy we showed up at the party because they have no choices. It's a classic, highly underserved market. Classic. So I can get equally passionate about arguing Mary. You guys just happen to choose Mary, so I took the flip side. Any other questions? I've got a bunch of notes from the class, but yeah.
Okay. So now I'd like to apply, and by the way, just FYI, I'm running, I would say I probably would have cut off the video because I need to complete the case study in an hour. I'm already over an hour to be able. So let's apply these techniques to mobile. All right, what we learned in terms of product, price, promotion, and place. So let me turn to the legacy guys here, because the legacy guys are not from. But where is where's the? So do we see the price here?
Yes.
Yes. So the price is here. So we got price. How about promotion? Is promotion here?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So we got promotion. Okay. What about, do we have, what about the product? How do we find out what the product is? What's the product?
The quality.
The high end, low end. Right?
High and
Okay.
low end.
Okay, so the product is embedded in price and quality. Would you say
and,
that?
And no, and 1 and 2.
And what? And they're different. Okay. So how do we know? How do we know what the correct price and quality should be? In other words, how do we know what product, what's going to win in the marketplace? What's the right price and quality and promotion? How are we going to know?
You have to do market research.
Or try it.
Within Mogul, how do we do market research?
Check the box.
We check the box. But how else do we know we have the right product, price, and promotion?
Your competition, compare yourself to your competition.
How are we going to do that?
And you also check the box.
Okay, we'll check the box, but how are we going to, when we run it, what are we going to learn from it?
How your competitors price their product.
And then based upon that, what are we going to, so what I'm searching for, I want to hear the word experimentation. We heard that, okay? We heard HubSpot's experimenting. I want that word to come out. Any student who mentions the word experimentation, I give them an A. That's what I was driving.
Is testing the same word where you really want
Testing.
Testing.
Testing, good. Test the market. That's just as good a word. All right. Now, let's take a look at these was some work done by last year's class. So, how would you predict, based upon this, who had the highest sales? Please vote. Who do you think had the highest sales?
Largest in revenues?
Largest in revenues.
I can't see the.
These are the 5 companies that were in this class. Who do you think?
Hold on. Very slow.
Who do you think had the highest revenue? Everybody vote?
No. Yes.
So people voted for laundry. Actually, it's mice who had the highest sales. Okay?
Yeah.
How come you had mice? Why did you vote mice?
Well, it had the highest or lowest price for a good quality.
Okay. All right. Had the highest price for so this product is kind of price sensitive. All right. Let's take a look at this next one. The data was right there. I meant this to come up later. Okay. All right. So actually, so here it's
I got those two confused.
Okay,
I
good.
thought that's
All right.
what this was
I meant it to be. It should have been a come up after I voted, and it didn't. Okay, so they had the highest sales. Now the question is who had the highest? They had the highest revenue. Now rank is determined by a strong element of profit. Mice. We said mice and wallet had the highest revenue. Who had the highest rank?
What does the rank mean?
Rank means overall who highest revenue, highest profit, highest return on investments.
It points to our rubric. It's in the syllabus.
But who had the highest is who was making the most return on their investment, profit, revenue? Do you think it was wallet and mice?
No.
Who do you think?
Laundry. In or out?
In or out.
Why in or out? It was in or out. Why?
It's the highest value, price and quality.
Price and quality. Okay. So are there other things to determine profit than just price and quality? So other than these factors, so we have to be careful in terms of money we spend here so we end up running a good company. Okay. That ends the case.
There's a question out of this.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Okay. Oh, so
You had a slide on local marketing.
yes.
As we, as facilitators, teach the class, that's there because they've already practiced mobile, and so we're just referencing.
What I want to do is part of the learning is I want to take these concepts. I want to do by the way, let me cover one more thing.
You're asking a very different question than here.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
We're going to be doing this case after they've already done the solo themselves. So they've
Gone
seen
through the
those
moguls.
screens
Oh,
and
yes.
they will
They-
recognize those
yes,
screens.
sorry.
Yeah.
So
Sorry.
they'll know what
I'm
the
sorry.
mice and all that, they have all the reference.
They will understand, and as will you. You'll understand those screens. They will.
Yeah,
they'll-
they all have seen,
they'll
this
run
is,
the
April
solo.
9th.
this is April 9th,
I did.
correct.
I don't.
Yeah.
You will have by then.
You will.
But I didn't.
That's
Yeah.
correct.
Thank you.
Yeah, just so, by the way, so this is actually the choreograph that I use, just so you've seen it. So, so initial cold calls, I show the YouTube video, I create a board one, I'll create a screen that looks like, again, I'll give you all of these, but this is typically what I'll create.
And that should be reviewed from the mogul module and from the asynchronous. They will have seen marketing twice.
This they'll get in the asynchronous.
And the asynchronous and the mogul piece.
No,
will be
this
just in
mogul
as-
one, this will just be
so that's
asynchronous.
going back to the asynchronous.
Yeah, but it's telling, okay, tell me about marketing.
Okay.
I'm hoping some of them will remember, right? But have them put them up on a board just like this, all right? I'll then do, okay, let's start. So this is focusing on target, and I have this question and answer. And then you'll notice I went in, I try to create conflict, and I don't want people looking at me, I want a class discussion. So I want people turning around and not looking at me in the front. It's not me in the front of the room, it's a discussion that's going on. Yes.
So you specifically went back to the same people. Would you do that, or would you go around the room more?
Well, I want, the issue is, I want to try to create conflict, so I'll end up probably picking on just a couple of people.
Just to create that tension.
Just to create that tension, okay?
Okay.
And then I say, okay, let's choose Ollie. I'll focus on product and pricing.
Can I feedback or
please.
query? You're
Good.
the experienced teacher here. As a fellow student, when Meg or whoever was having the debate, I kind of thought, okay, time to check. I felt disengaged because I knew you were going to ask me because it was all about their conflict, and I just, as a 19-year-old, took it as an opportunity to check out. So I'm just wondering how you think about that.
That's a constant debate, okay? Is how do I create, I want, in other words, if I'm constantly jumping around from topic to topic, I don't create the debate.
No, but I wasn't asking about that. And I thought, Meg was bringing up some great points, and Wayne and Travis will be here and say, okay, Charles or Bob or Susie, what do how would you respond to rather than making it just like a tennis match, a singles game?
I think that's a style issue, right?
Okay.
Well, I'll go back and it's not that I always do it that way. If I think it's a good, first of all, the level of I think the level of discussion in this class is as good as it gets. You won't get this even, well, you'll get this kind of in a graduate class.
Okay.
But yes, that's always an issue, and especially the larger the classes.
But is that what they?
You sometimes get yes.
So at Harvard, because you've been to how to teach case studies.
Harvard, you'll get students who will say, I got never called on. I had my hand up. You'll hear that again and again. Had my hand up. You never called on me. Okay. And especially, it's always tough in the left when I go back in the left-hand corner, and you sometimes. By the way, some students will come and address it and say, you know what, you're constantly not engaging me, and I'll say, thanks, and I'll make sure,
Do you recommend, if the room allows for it, to constantly be moving in and out? Like,
I move in and out and around. I try, they tell you, you don't want the discussion this way,
Right.
okay, and I'll constantly be moving in, okay, which leads to the problem, but that's the nature of case discussions.
Because it's further fun way. I feel like you're walking.
Let me just finish this.
Can
I'll
I
get to you,
just
Meg.
ask a question on the
Yeah, go
cases, Peter? So I became frustrated, but I'm not sure you agree with this. I'm open to the
Okay.
answer of this, is that this is a real case, and therefore there was an end, and there's a flaw for their end. There's still a flaw in HubSpot.
Okay.
So do you go that far? So in other words, this is a dated case, and yet this company exists now. So I did the research beyond the case.
Okay.
Do you take it to that? Because I would.
I think the key issue is what I want to get to is I want them to understand product, price, promotion, and place and target. And it's not
So
real
the
business
truth
case.
doesn't matter. It's
I
really.
think it's too advanced for them, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I think
Okay.
you want to connect them.
Just make the points, is what
Yeah,
you're saying.
well, it's what I learned the first time around. They were uncomfortable with product, price, promotion in place, and didn't know how to translate that into decision making. If you can get into that last side, they actually go, aha, this is what this means.
Which slide was that?
Peter had a slide with the mobile decisions.
Oh, I see.
If you can lead them to that point where they actually understand how to make those decisions rather than guessing, 'cause that's what you're fighting against. Some guess, some try to figure it out. If you have them not guess and use some logic, I think you win.
But also there's no, in business, there's no right answer.
And I think that's a good point.
And
for
I think to be able to argue,
Yeah,
what I
that's
love
what
the
I'm asking.
what I love the argument on
Yeah.
both sides, and so they understand. Well, this is not so.
Because at Rutgers, they would have accepted it, accepted you, gone on. I could have done it exactly as you did. FIT, interestingly, there's no way. There would have been 3 kids in the class that already had gone further, that had, and there
Okay.
would be, so, and that's interesting. You'd think Rutgers would be a better discussion. It wasn't the case. So that's why I just want you to know there's a legitimate reason. So these are engineers, even another layer. So this seems to be enough. You're trying to make your points.
I mean, for me is I got to be mindful of time.
Yeah.
Okay. And so let me just go through. So this is a choreograph that I use. How should it again for those? So the point is, I know pretty much where I want to go to. I think I have the word experimentation here somewhere. I maybe not. So I have certain. So let's hear from. So the point is, this is not, for those of you who've never done cases, this is not a free wheel discussion. I just don't come to class and say, okay, let's see how this goes. All right. Actually, I want a certain pattern to come out, and sometimes people. So for example, Meg wanted to take it to business, and I think that's an interesting sidetrack. And the question is, now in a graduate class, I would probably let that happen where I had time, and just see, because the danger for me is I'm not sure where that's going to go. I think it's a great question, but I don't know where it's going to go, and it may go somewhere that I don't like. And now once I open the Pandora's box, okay, not only do I disenfranchise Meg, I disenfranchise now a whole bunch of students. So I can't. And it's a trade-off that you constantly have to go through. Like if somebody starts talking about what happened after, it's a constant trade-off that you have to do.
Is the class size of 24 optimal for this? I mean, it seems manageable, but I mean, what's the... Yeah.
24 is pretty good.
Yeah, it seems like it.
30 is my maximum. Harvard does 60.
It's got to be frustrating for the students.
Master teacher.
So, okay. So a question, we can turn off the video. I created